This video is going to show you how to make a project point cloud. And the difference between a point cloud and a project point cloud is that all of these scans that are loaded right now are loaded in your RAM. So depending on how much RAM you have, it depends on how light this project's going to feel to you. If you had 30 scans here, that might just overwhelm your computer. So there's also something called a project point cloud, which is a representation of the data, and that information then is kept in your video card instead of RAM, and it is very light and it has full access the same way a point number does in a coordinate geometry program to all the coordinate data, northern, easting, elevation, descriptor. Everything is tied to a point number in a coordinate geometry system, and the same thing in a project point cloud. The little spots of light that you see as you scan into these things are connected to all the data in a project point cloud, but in the point cloud that we have now, it is all the data, so it's rather heavy. Alright, so here's a little icon up here, and this creates a project point cloud. All I need to do is click on that, and it says we have some things to save, and so we will call this one first load. It's always good to keep track of what you've done before you save it, so we'll save that, and that just takes, well, it's going to take a couple minutes, so I may edit this out. And so it's saving all the data, and as it saves it, it'll tell you to revision 1. And so now they're loaded with, it's telling us it's being loaded in a gray value, which is fine because you're going to get closer measurements measuring in a grayscale than you will in a color diagram. But you may want to look at things in color. We'll go over that in another video later. So we're just going to acknowledge that yes, they're going to be grayscale. And then it asks you if you want to eliminate duplicate points, homogenize the points, apply color balance. Well, you don't need to do these things because I will have already done that for you before I send you the scans. And it's not in color. So we're going to use all of our cores. If you want to do other work while this is processing, you can scale this back and use however many cores you want. And so we're going to put this in the processor now, and it's going to process the point clouds, and as it does, you'll notice that up here these become empty again. That's because it's done processing those particular sets of data, and it's unloading those, and now it's processing. And if I look at my processor, it's using a lot of RAM to do this, and not so much of the a lot of CPU usage, I'm sorry, and not a whole lot of the RAM, because it's all unloaded. So here we go, it's finalizing the points now. I've got a pretty powerful computer with 12 cores, so this doesn't take very long, and it's done. It took 44 seconds to do. Alright, so we should close this window because that's trying to look at the data that's no longer there. And we now have a change in the point cloud icons, and you can delete it or you can update it. But we just made it, so we don't need to update it. Here's a little 3D window. So if the scans are unloaded and you push this little 3D window, you'll be looking at the project point cloud. If the scans are loaded and you push this button, you're going to look at the the point cloud. So now we're going to look at the project point cloud, which is the light version of what you saw before. It looks a little bit different. It's a little brighter. But basically it acts the same way. We make a radius point, and it floats around, and we could look at it and work on it. We can use the icons up above and do whatever we want. So that's the creation of a project point cloud.